Question of the day. Is the SYNCO G3 Pro a viable option when comparable to other wireless microphones of different price points? Let's see.
They don't think we can keep making hits about cameras. But I'm the cameraman. But I'm the cameraman. Stay creamy. Yeah, started on a 50 mil lens.
Hey, if this is your first time coming to the channel, I'd like to welcome you. This is Lessons Learned with Cameras. My name is Willie. So just recently, the people over at SYNCO reached out to me and asked me would I like to test their first 2.4G wireless microphone with 3 levels of noise reduction. My answer, of course. So here you have the SYNCO G3 Pro. Now the items that come in the box are as followed. You have your receiver, 2 transmitters, 2 mic windshields, Type-C to Type-C cable, TRS to TRS cable, 2 external lav mics with wind muffs and clips, TRS camera cable, Type-C to USB-A adapter, and the carrying bag. So it's only right the first thing we'll discuss will be the receiver and the 2 transmitters. Right now, currently for shooting this talking head portion of the video, I'm utilizing the G3 Pro. As you can see by looking at the receiver, you see the audio is registering on there. And I'm also utilizing one of the transmitters with the lavalier attached to it with the wind muff on it. Now, full disclosure, for shooting inside, I had to use some isolation and some bass and post just because of the room that I'm in. It kind of creates an echoey sound whenever I use any type of lapel mic versus me using my shotgun mic. So I wanted to make that clear up front, but when we go outside and do the outdoor test, that's going to be straight out the receiver and transmitters to the camera, no modifications whatsoever. The G3 Pro offers a 3-channel wireless setup, complete with a user-friendly touchscreen. Within the touchscreen, all menu options are easily laid out with smooth transition between screens. Transmitters, when attached to the receiver, can be charged off the receiver for around 24 hours recording time through a double charge cycle. The external layout of the receiver consists of a power lock and unlock button. On the back side, you have the USB charging port, audio out port, audio monitoring jack, and the receiver microphone. As for the transmitter, you have the power button, the audio gain adjustment, clip, noise reduction button, 3.5 external microphone jack, and the transmitter microphone. Now, as you can see, when the windscreen is attached to the transmitter, this is a different concept I've never seen, but I must admit it's quite effective and definitely isn't going to fall off. So let's talk about this LCD screen. Now, me personally, I was pleasantly pleased to see how fluid it was and going from screen to screen or menu to menu with the slightest of touch. Another area where the G3 Pro's receiver surpasses some of the other receivers that I've used in the past is the fact that most receivers only have small display screens or LED blinking lights to determine what the function or mode is. That can become annoying over time. Nothing's worse than trying to remember if one steady blue light is stereo, 3 blinking lights is mono, 1 is for volume, 1's for gain, and all these blinking lights do different functions. That can become irritating. You won't have that problem with the G3 Pro. If you're worried about accidentally bumping your display screen and messing up your settings, the lock and unlock button keeps you from doing that, which is also a nice feature. The G3 Pro comes in at about 106 grams with receiver and transmitters attached. Without the transmitters, you're looking at about 77 grams. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and the cons. Pros first, LCD touchscreen. This is my first time using an LCD touchscreen on a receiver. I must say that it's definitely a better user experience than have to scroll through the menu by way of external buttons. That's a plus. 3 ways for microphone audio. Now, this is also my first time utilizing a receiver that had a built-in microphone. I can see the different uses or benefits for it depending on what your shooting needs are, especially if you're a director, you're behind the camera and you want to do some commentary over the actors in front of the camera. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's multiple use case scenarios for it. Me personally, I really don't have a need for it, but I definitely can appreciate it as a pro. 3 levels of noise reduction. Again, first time I've had a receiver that had 3 levels of noise reduction built in. I've had plenty of receivers that had dB or gain adjustment, but not levels of noise reduction. So on to the cons. So the first con that I noticed was the receiver's microphone only has a stereo channel. What's meant by that is, okay, you have your 2 transmitters. Your 2 transmitters have stereo, mono, and mono safety channel. The receiver only has a stereo channel. The problem I came into when I was outside doing my field test, I noticed when I was behind the camera talking through the receiver's microphone that when I went to play it back in post, the sound or the audio was only coming through, let's say, like the right side or the right speaker. So it can be adjusted in post if need be. I played around with it a little bit, but I noticed that the left channel was a lot lower than the right channel was. That could be some type of safety features that's put into that, so that way the person behind the camera audio isn't so overbearing on top of the person that or persons that's in front with the transmitters. I don't know, but I just noticed that the receiver itself only had the stereo channel. No external audio recording on the transmitters. Now, for me personally and my shooting needs, that's not a con at all. You got to be realistic with your expectations. I think sometimes people lose sight of that. But for a retail price of $149, I don't expect this wireless microphone setup to have that feature. Now, the SYNCO G3 does have that, and there's other wireless microphone setups out there made by other companies that have it also, but I have not noticed it or seen it at the retail price of $149. So that's something you got to kind of keep in mind when you're comparing what the cons are. But I put it down as a con because I know somebody's going to say that that's a con. Size. For me personally, again, that's not a con. I appreciate the size, honestly, for me, because with the display screen, the touch display screen at that, I mean, the older I get, my eyes are getting a little weary. So it does make it easier on the eyes trying to see what's on the display screen. I appreciate it, but again, I'm just trying to think outside the box because I know there may be a user out there that may be used to using smaller receivers or very, very small transmitters that may find an issue with the overall size of the receiver itself. And the last one, display screen's brightness and sunlight. Now, I noticed this, but again, if I was an outdoor shooter, this would be one of my cons that I would have for the G3 Pro. Me personally, I'm an indoor shooter and I shoot mostly in low light. So it wouldn't be a con for me overall. When I was using it indoors, I don't have a problem with the brightness on the display screen. But when I was outside, I noticed that I had a hard time being able to see the screen, even with the brightness set all the way to the max. So that could be a legitimate con right there. So with that being said and out the way, let's go ahead and go outside and conduct a little mini field test. Now for this first test, I have one of the wireless transmitters with the windscreen attached to it. Not really because it's windy out here, but more or less for the fact that it's right up against my clothing and I really don't want nothing to contaminate the audio. Also, the noise reduction is not on for this test. And with there being 3 levels, I will do a test and a comparison for that. Don't really vlog too much nowadays, but this could be a viable option for someone who still vlogs and who uses an action cam for that. The only thing I'd see that may be a problem for someone, if they can't get past that, would be probably the size of the receiver. As you can see, this is how I mounted mine, vertically on the side of it. But I mean, you can definitely mount it horizontally on top. It's just that for this device, I have the display mod attached to it, so I had to modify it just a little bit. Same test conditions, iPhone 13 Pro Max with the SYNCO G3 Pro attached to it horizontally. And how does that sound for sound quality? Now, I've said it before, I say it again. Me personally, I'm not a cell phone shooter, but there's plenty of people out there that create content utilizing their cell phone. So just wanted to give you an example of what that could sound like utilizing the SYNCO G3 Pro attached to a cell phone. And this is what you get for sound quality. Same test conditions. The only thing that's different for this one is the receiver is mounted horizontally the way it should be and the way most people mount it on the Sony ZV-1 Mark I utilizing the multi-interface shoe. So how does that sound for sound quality? Now, the reason I'm doing the product compatibility, I wanted to kind of show you, depending on what video recording device you got, that this product is compatible with pretty much all of them. So the same test conditions as usual, but I'm using the Sony ZV-10 Mark II with the SYNCO G3 Pro receiver attached to it by way of the multi-interface hot shoe. So I'm gonna go ahead and combine the distance test. so we can go ahead and knock out two birds with one stone. But this way you can see how it keeps up the audio quality when you walk away from the camera and the receiver with your back facing to it. So right now, as you can see, walking back to the receiver and to the camera, and this distance to my shed from my back porch is about 75 feet, which converts to about 23 meters. Don't quote me on that, but this is what you get for sound quality walking this distance away. And again, my back is still facing to it. Put a knock on the shed, and I'm very certain that there was no drops in audio quality for this short little distance. But let's be realistic, okay? The SYNCO G3 Pro is rated at 250 meters, which I probably should have looked at this ahead of time. I want to say that equates to about 800 feet distance. I really don't think, in the terms of realistically speaking, that no one would be this far away from their camera and their receiver for a multitude of reasons. One, theft. I mean, if you're about 800 feet or 250 meters from your receiver and camera, I'm pretty sure you can't even see it from that far away. The only way I could see this being possible would be, shooting with another person assisting you, staying where the camera and receiver is. But as for shoot case scenarios, I have none that this would fall into, where I would be 250 meters away from my camera, or even 23 meters away from it. But I wanted to show you this because it's part of the test for distance, and just to let you know, if this was a shooting scenario for you, at least 23 meters away from it, you wouldn't have an issue. You would have no drops in audio quality and so forth. But again, just for security reasons, there's no place I could really go to where I could step 800 feet away from the camera and be confident that when I came back to the camera that it was still there. I'm just being honest about it. But again, this will kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at for at least this type of distance. All right, on to next test. This is the 3 levels of noise reduction. Right now, the SYNCO G3 Pro with the transmitter is currently on no noise reduction at all. There's nothing enabled in the GoPro itself. So this is what you get just straight out of the receiver to the transmitter. And again, there's not a lot of wind noise. There are some crickets chirping in the background. I can hear some cars over there. Nothing drastic, but I kind of wanted to do the test in a controlled environment. I know most people like doing these type of tests where they can capture more of the external ambient noises around you and then dampen the noises from there. But I decided to do the test this way because I want to hear how my voice, the audio portion of my voice, is recorded in comparison to the different levels of noise reduction. A lot of noise reductions I've dealt with in the past, once you enable noise reduction, your voice gets real muffled and damp. So it's hard to pick that out when your voice is getting dampened along with the external ambient noises. So I want to do it this way, just to have a clear, concise way of really determining if the noise reduction is taking care of the outside noise versus my voice and enhancing my voice, or if it's also dampening my voice along with the outside noise. So let's go ahead and get this test started. First one's going to be level 1 noise reduction. So this is the low noise reduction, or level 1. Right now the crickets are still chirping away. I still hear cars driving by, but it'll be interesting to see what this does for handling the surrounding outside noises versus my voice and how it picks that up. So again, this is level 1, or the low noise reduction. And this is level 2, or medium noise reduction. So right now, pretty much the same noises as usual. The cars are still driving by. crickets are starting to pick back up again, but I wonder how this would compare when you are listening to it in relationship to the low or level 1. But again, this is the medium noise reduction. And last but not least, this is high or level 3 noise reduction. Same noises are still in place. Was just a little bit of wind. Now it went down. So this is what you get for level 3. And I could tell by looking at the display, it does show that the dBs are registering a little bit lower. So hopefully this comes out good and it's blocking all these external noises that I hear in my surroundings. So this is level 3 again. Okay, so now this is with the receiver transferring the audio to my GoPro. And as you can see, these are both my transmitters in my hand. Obviously, it's not picking up nothing, so they're disabled right now. And want to do this test just to show you how this may come in handy for if you're shooting content and the person behind the camera want to interact with the content creator while they're recording the content. It's one way of doing it. That way you got your 2 transmitters and you also have the receiver that can record the audio. So let me just show you what this sounds like if you're in front of it and the receiver is facing the other way. So right now, the receiver, as you've seen it earlier, it is vertical, but the mic itself for picking up voice on the receiver is on the back side. So this is what it would sound like if you were in front of it. Definitely not the ideal shooting scenario, but just to let you know how the quality of it is. So in conclusion, this is definitely a really good wireless microphone setup, especially at its price point. I couldn't find any other wireless microphone at this price point that had the same features on it, and I looked pretty intensively for it. I couldn't find it. That's something you got to keep in mind. Now, if I went up to a higher price point, sure, I could get these features and then some. If I went a little bit lower, obviously it was missing some features. But if I just take an example, and again, not trying to put no other company on blast, but let's say my Rode Wireless Go 2 with those lavalier mics that I purchased with that. The lavalier mics by themselves were about, I don't know, around $70 a piece for each lavalier mic. You're talking about like almost $140 to $150 that I paid just for lavalier mics alone. With the setup like the SYNCO G3 Pro, everything that comes included in the package is under that same price point or at that price point of just the lavalier mics. And the SYNCO G3 Pro came with lavalier mics included. So I look at it kind of like overall like that. I have a lot of wireless microphones. And when I compared it against those, I compared it against obviously my Rode Wireless Go 2 when it came to the distance and the audio quality, and I compared it against my Hollyland Lark M2 also. So, it's definitely comparable to other microphones, either higher or lower price points. It's still pretty comparable. I couldn't find anything that stuck out in a negative way with the G3 Pro compared to other wireless microphone setups. So that pretty much ends this review. If you like content like this and you want to see more of it, don't forget to subscribe. If you felt the information covered in the video was useful, please drop a like, and I will see you in the next video.